The day the Tiger met its match. Cologne, 1945. The square before Cologne Cathedral lay in ruins. Rubble choked the streets, and the Gothic towers loomed like blackened giants over a city that had already fallen. But on the afternoon of March 6, 1945, the ancient cathedral would witness something new, the end of a myth that had haunted Allied tankers for years. German Feldwebel Karl Hoffmann pressed his eye to a shattered periscope. Through spiderweb cracks, he saw a silhouette rolling out of the smoke. At first glance, it looked American, but not like any Sherman he had ever studied. This tank sat lower, sleeker. Its turret was massive, its gun barrel long, thicker than anything he had ever seen pointed at him. "Das ist kein Sherman," he whispered into his intercom. "That's not a Sherman." For 3 years, German crews had fought in Tigers and Panthers with near invincibility. They had memorized the Sherman's weaknesses, its thin armor, its underpowered 75mm gun, its desperate need to close within suicidal range just to scratch a tiger's hide. They knew how to play the odds. But this was new. And in 18 seconds, Hoffmann and his crew would discover that America had finally built a tank that could kill them head-on at any range. The myth of German superiority. Since 1942, the Tiger I had rewritten the rules of tank warfare. Its 88mm gun could destroy Allied tanks at 2 kilometers. Its 100mm of armor shrugged off Sherman rounds that shattered harmlessly, even at point-blank range. German crews felt untouchable, and with good reason. Allied soldiers spoke of Tiger fever, reporting Tigers everywhere, even when none were present. One Tiger could hold up an entire advance. SS officer Michael Wittmann had once destroyed 14 tanks and 15 other vehicles in just 15 minutes with a single Tiger in Normandy. To Allied infantry, the name alone meant death. To its crews, it meant supremacy. That confidence had held for 2.5 years. But deep in Detroit, engineers had been working in silence since 1942 on something called Project T-26. While German crews chalked up kill rings on their gun barrels, American workers were designing a tank that would erase the psychological edge of the Panzerwaffe. The secret birth of the Pershing. The M26 Pershing was born from bitter necessity. The Sherman, designed in 1941 against Panzer IVs, was hopelessly outclassed by Tigers and Panthers by 1944. American commanders knew it, and the men inside those Shermans paid the price daily. The Pershing was the answer, a heavy tank carrying a 90mm gun adapted from anti-aircraft weapons, firing rounds that could punch through a Tiger at 1,500 meters. Its turret was cast in a single massive piece, its armor sloped and thick. Inside, it carried innovations the Germans hadn't imagined. Stabilized guns that could fire accurately on the move, wet stowage ammunition racks to prevent catastrophic explosions, even padded interiors for crew comfort. Its arrival in Europe was shrouded in secrecy. Shipped under false codes, hidden beneath tarps, and described as maintenance equipment, only 20 Pershings reached the front in January 1945. Their crews were sworn to secrecy and trained apart from other units. Even the Wehrmacht's famed intelligence service had no idea the Americans had a heavy tank at all. By February, those first Pershings had rolled into combat. One was knocked out by a Tiger in its first action, but repaired and returned to battle. Then, rumors began filtering through German lines, Shermans with longer guns, heavier armor, destroying Panthers at impossible ranges. German crews dismissed them as exaggeration. That illusion would not survive Cologne. Cologne Cathedral, the duel. At 3:20 p.m. on March 6, 1945, a Panther tank from Panzer Brigade 106 crouched in ambush near Cologne's Cathedral Square. Its commander, Wilhelm Bartelborth, had the advantage. Rubble for cover, a clear field of fire, and the confidence that his 75mm high-velocity gun could pierce any Sherman before it got close. Through his scope, Bartelborth spotted movement what looked like a Sherman with an unusually long barrel. He fired first. At 300 meters, his shot struck the American tank square in the front. Sparks flew, but the armor held. The shell ricocheted harmlessly skyward. 3 seconds later, the reply came. Staff Sergeant Robert Early, commanding Eagle 7, a Pershing of the 3rd Armored Division, gave the order. Corporal Clarence Smoyer squeezed the trigger. The Pershing's 90mm gun roared. Its round punched through the Panther's turret face, igniting ammunition inside. In a burst of fire and smoke, the German tank was finished. The duel was captured on film by U.S. Signal Corps cameraman Jim Bates. It remains one of the most iconic tank battles of World War II, not because of its scale, but because of what it symbolized. For the first time, American armor could go toe-to-toe with Germany's best and win. The psychological collapse. The Pershing did not exist in numbers large enough to tip the battlefield mathematically. Barely 20 saw combat before Germany surrendered. But to German crews, numbers didn't matter. Rumors spread faster than facts. Reports flooded headquarters, Shermans with impossibly long guns, tanks impervious to 75mm fire, vehicles knocking out Panthers at 1,800 meters. The Germans called it the Long Gun Sherman, unable to conceive that an entirely new American heavy tank had entered the war. This uncertainty was devastating. For years, German doctrine had depended on technical superiority to offset Allied numbers. Now, they no longer knew what they were facing. Was that Sherman column harmless or hiding Pershings? Crews began hesitating, withdrawing, abandoning tanks after minor breakdowns they once would have repaired under fire. Morale collapsed. By April 1945, entire German armored units refused to engage unless they were certain Pershings were absent. And certainty was impossible. Industrial truths. In truth, the Pershing was no invincible superweapon. Its transmission was unreliable. Its armor, while well sloped, was thinner than a King Tiger's. In technical terms, it was roughly equivalent to a Panther superior in some ways, inferior in others. But that didn't matter. What mattered was production. Germany built just over 1,800 Tigers and King Tigers combined during the entire war. America built over 2,200 Pershings in 1945 alone, while still rolling out tens of thousands of Shermans. The Grand Blanc Arsenal in Michigan could finish a Pershing in hours. German factories needed weeks to complete a Tiger. German crews began to realize they weren't just outnumbered, they were outproduced, out-innovated, and outlasted. For soldiers who had clung to faith in German engineering as their last hope, this realization broke something inside. The end of a myth. By late April, German tank resistance in the West had collapsed. Crews abandoned vehicles rather than face Pershings they might never encounter. Units transferred from the Eastern Front, still dominating Soviet armor, melted away when told Americans had heavy tanks. In reality, only 20 Pershings fought in Europe, but their impact was immeasurable. They shattered the psychological foundation of the Panzerwaffe. The hunters had become the hunted. The myth of German tank invincibility died not under the treads of thousands, but in the shadow of a cathedral when one long American gun spoke and a Panther burst into flame. Legacy today. Surviving Pershings sit in museums beside captured Tigers and Panthers. On paper, they are technical equals, but their true story lies not in armor thickness or gun penetration tables, but in the minds of the men who fought in them. For German tankers, the Pershing symbolized the end, proof that American democracy and industry could match and even surpass the Reich's most prized, machines. For America, it was a late but powerful reminder that industrial strength, once focused, could change the battlefield. The M26 Pershing was more than a tank. It was the shattering of certainty. It was the long gun that broke the myth of invincibility. And in that moment, the war's end came into view, not just in steel, but in spirit.